Am I the a-hole stories? Am I the a-hole for kicking my stepbrother and his friends out, after what they did at my engagement party? I, 30 male, have a younger stepbrother Kevin 22. I let him move into my old apartment and pay cheaper rent, along with his two other friends because they're struggling with college, and needed a cheaper place but couldn't find one. I'd help him out by getting his car fixed, lend him money, bring him meals. I also take care of my mom who's at the hospital, and my fiancé and I decided to have a small celebration at a restaurant. 8 people. There were a lot of people I wanted including mom, but couldn't. I have high blood pressure that despite medication, gets worse. Kevin wanted to bring his friends to my engagement party. I declined, and explained that we were having a small celebration. He was upset but then dropped it. We got to the restaurant, and just as we started eating, I got a call from Kevin saying he is at the hospital where mom's staying. I asked him why because he sounded worried, told me mom was very sick, and that I needed to get there because it seemed like she was having a stroke. I dropped my fork. My fiancé and parents noticed how pale I was. I hung up. And as I was getting ready to leave, they asked what was going on. I told them mom was very sick and I needed to go to the hospital. My fiancé wanted to come but I didn't take her. I got there. I went to the nurses who were handling my mom's care and they denied her having any sudden issues, let alone a stroke. I couldn't stand on my feet. I called Kevin several times until he picked up. He started laughing along with the others in the background. I was confused. Then he told me it was a prank, and that I fell for it. He said we're even now since they couldn't show up to my engagement party. I started yelling at him till he hung up. My fiancé's parents were calling, and I felt terrible because I didn't know what to tell them. It was a prank. My fiancé's family thought I was lying so I kept saying my mom's doing okay. I drove to my apartment where Kevin was staying. Got into argument with him and his buddies. I yelled at them for ruining my engagement dinner, and causing me stress knowing I have high blood pressure. I told them to pack their things and to move out. Kevin started begging, saying I can't do this over a prank, and they had nowhere to go. I told him it wasn't my problem. They kept saying it was a prank and they didn't expect me to react like that. Then they left. My aunt called me saying Kevin was an a-hole for what he did, but kicking him out was extreme, and I was too harsh on him. Eventually, that's my brother and I need to be supportive of him, even though he's acting stupid. I take some of the blame as my fiancé said, because they did things before and I should have stopped them, but I couldn't imagine them going this far. Kevin's mom is deceased. I help him with whatever I can because I know he's struggling. His aunt isn't my biological aunt, but I respect her enough to consider her family. But defending this behavior is not acceptable. Now for the top comments. Are you kidding me with this post? I believe you, it's too insane to make up. I have no words other than obviously not the a-hole. Obviously not the a-hole. My aunt called me saying Kevin was an a-hole for what he did, but kicking him out was extreme and I was too harsh on him. Eventually, that's my brother and I need to be supportive of him even though he's acting stupid. Let your aunt take his prank button then. Yes. Hasn't even apologized. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. He sounds like a cruel and vindictive individual. Kick him out. Cut all ties. Bye Felicia. Ain't nobody got time for silly business like that. Yeah, even he knew this wasn't a funny prank, but a vindictive action to get even for what he perceived as a slight, which is also ridiculous. He is just upset that it worked too well, and you were in fact hurt by it. Not the a-hole. That was not a prank, it was downright cruel. Kick him out and sublease the apartment to someone else. If he thinks that's even remotely funny, you'll be teaching him a valuable lesson by throwing him out. It's my fault. He and his friends did things before that were enough for me to cut contact with them, but this is unforgivable. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for kicking out my sister after she refused to help with my son? My parents had me, 25 female, at a very old age. All my siblings are significantly older than me and they tolerated me for the most part. My oldest sister took it a step further and barely interacted with me. I learned quickly that she disliked me and I kept my space from her afterwards. Although we live in the same town, we didn't really interact with each other and only talked during family events/calls. Recently, my sister lost her job. She is widowed with adult children who live on their own in different cities. My mom begged me to let her move in with me, and framed it as a chance for us to bond and become actual sisters. My sister has been living with me for about 7 months now and she doesn't help with anything. She doesn't cook, clean or even contribute to utility bills. The only thing she does is play with my son, 1-year-old. And even then, it's like 15 to 20 minutes, and if he needs a diaper change or need to be fed, she calls on me. I was making dinner for the 3 of us, my husband was still at work at this time and my sister was playing in the living room with my son. She called me that I should come and change my son's diapers. I asked her to please change it since I was cutting vegetables. She said it can wait and that she's been there and done that. I stopped cooking and changed my son's diapers. After the dinner was done, I didn't call my sister to come and eat and I'm sure she got the memo. The next day, I told my sister that I can't live with her anymore and that she needs to find a new place to live. She called me names. My parents are saying I'm wicked for kicking out my own sister, and so are my siblings. They also said that my sister isn't my nanny, and it's unfair of me to expect free child care. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. If you can't expect free childcare, then she shouldn't expect a place to live of which she contributes nothing to. If she doesn't help pay bills, she should be expected to help out in other ways, whether it be chores or helping out with your baby. The entitlement is disgusting. As so often happens, no good deed goes unpunished. Not the a-hole. If she doesn't contribute to anything, she can help out with child care, especially if that child care is when you're cooking/cleaning for her. Not the a-hole. The gall of this woman saying she's not her nephew's nanny. That may be the case, but she also isn't OP's child in responsibility. The other family members can house her if they want to cast judgment. Show by example how families should help each other. How they would never kick out a guest not contributing anything to her household. I can hear shudders and awkward silence already from their inevitable response to this question. OP is not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Your sister is mooching off you and your husband. I get that she lost her job, but she can still help out around the house to help out. She's been living rent-free for 7 months. Time for her to live with someone else if she won't step up and help. Cooking, cleaning, laundry, watching your son. If she really didn't want to change your son, she could have offered to finish up dinner while you spent time with him. Good luck. Also, does your family who is complaining realize she does nothing but mooch off of you and your hubby, or do they think she helps out and you are just booting her out? Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling sister-in-law that if I wanted her opinion I'd have made her a bridesmaid? Me, 27 female, and fiancé, 29 male, have been together for 8 years. Until we got engaged, I was very close with his 4 sisters, then when he proposed, I was frozen out. They'd been fine with me being his girlfriend, but I didn't deserve to be Mrs. Last Name. We had been planning to ask all of them to be bridesmaids. I told fiancé I'd still ask them to for his sake, but he refused and said they deserved nothing more than an invitation as basic courtesy if they don't support our marriage. This is when their attitude got worse. Anytime they could, they'd make witchy comments about me and the wedding. Make sure you find a plus-size wedding dress shop, I'm a size 12. I won't stay the night, it's not worth my time. Aren't you worried what people will think if you have roses? I know that from what my fiancé has been told, they are furious to have not been made bridesmaids and feel I chose to do that to exclude them from everything. That brings us to now, we had to cancel our big 2021 wedding due to obvious reasons. Instead, next year we're renting a 9-bedroom holiday home with a nice garden, and having a small ceremony of 30 immediate family and close friends, and then just a low-key party in the garden afterwards. We assigned bedrooms to our parents, and bridal party. When we told mother-in-law, she asked where the sisters' rooms were. We told her all the other guests can stay at the inn, 4 minutes walk away. I checked, which is actually loads cheaper than the rooms we've paid for the bridal party. Within 3 hours of speaking to mother-in-law, the eldest sister was on the phone to fiancé crying that I have once again excluded his sisters, and they are sick of me. Apparently, the situation had reduced mother-in-law to tears. Fiancé was defending me to her, but at one point, turned to ask me a question about the inn. If they had family rooms, they do, and when his sister heard my voice, she demanded to speak to me. Fiancé refused and said he's her brother, so if she has an issue to take it up with her. However, I'd reached the end of my tether and agreed to talk to her. She immediately began berating me, and I just snapped and cut her off with, "Name, if I cared about your opinion on my wedding, don't you think I'd have asked you to be bridesmaid?" And handed fiancé the phone back. He hung up on her after that. His entire family is furious, and even my maid of honor and my parents have said I shouldn't have said that, since it hadn't even been my decision about the wedding party and I knew it was a sore point. They also said now if his sisters do show up for the wedding, it'll be really awkward for everyone, and no one will have fun and I've ruined the whole day. Am I the a-hole for snapping at his sister with something I knew would anger her? Not the a-hole, and check out the shiny spine on your other half. Nice to hear of a partner backing up and supporting their other half, instead of letting family create needless dramas. He refused, and said they deserved nothing more than an invitation as basic courtesy if they don't support our marriage. Not the a-hole, OP should believe him and ignore all the rest. I read that 3 times because at first, I thought he was siding with them. I may be a little bit in love with this man. OP. Could you all not elope with just your bridal party, or uninvite the turd flingers? Seems everybody else has decided it's going to suck, so why make them suffer through it? Not the a-hole. After freezing you out, what did they expect would happen? Yeah, what was endgame here for them? To drive her away, of course. I think it's also to see how far they could push her boundaries. I think there's also an element of control possibly. They were all each other's bridesmaids, and therefore all had says in the other's weddings. This is the first sibling wedding where they've had no hand in decision making. I only say this because there was an incident when I bought my dress because I only had my mother there, due to pandemic restrictions, and they were hysterical when they found out about it, and demanded fiancé send them photos of me in the dress I chose so they'd feel included. He refused, and argued he didn't know of any wedding where the guests could demand to see the dress beforehand, and also, he doesn't want to see the photos himself anyway. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not letting 12-year-old sister-in-law crash my wedding in pajamas? This happened a while ago, but I am trying to reflect on a lot of stuff that happened in the family, so I need opinions. Mother-in-law was not invited to our wedding because she sucks. Father-in-law and both Sills were invited. The 12-year-old said she wasn't coming because we aren't her family, and she isn't going to play family without her mom. She screamed at me for trying to talk to her, and said until we make up with mother-in-law, don't talk to her. Father-in-law told her that he was not going to pressure her to come, but then she found out that father-in-law and some other family members were having a little family vacation after our wedding. We got married out of state, and she didn't want to miss out. Mother-in-law was in Mexico with friends. We were getting married at a rental house, and he asked if she could come but stay in the room during the wedding. That was fine. Sister-in-law ended up coming down 3/4 of the way through in pajamas because she was bored. Father-in-law was an emotional wreck at the wedding, sitting in a corner getting drunk, he never drinks, and calling mother-in-law every hour to tell her that he loves her, and he is sorry he came. Mother-in-law was out partying and giving him one-word answers, and by the time sister-in-law came down, he was drunk to the point he could barely speak. Sister-in-law was hanging out with her aunt and uncle, still wearing pajamas. I sent dear husband over to ask her to leave. She did not have anything appropriate to change into and the wedding was close to over, so she was told to go to her room. She did, but the uncle gave me a dirty look. We ate breakfast with them in the morning before we left for our honeymoon, and father-in-law was on the phone with mother-in-law again, telling her that he shouldn't have come and he wishes he could go back in time and stay with her. Mother-in-law was laying on a beach, looking annoyed. Sister-in-law took the phone and told her about being asked to go to her room, and mother-in-law started screaming at me that I am a witch, and why am I bullying her child? She said she is just a kid and called me a freak for caring. Dear husband finally took the phone and hung it up. We are currently planning to see them after 4 months of no contact, not because of this, and I just wanted to know if I was in the wrong. Now for the comments. Not the a-hole because it's your wedding, and asking her to at least be dressed nicer than PJs if she wants to come, isn't a huge ask. That said, not sure how it really would have ruined anything to have her wandering around in her pajamas, given her dad was already having a drunken meltdown in the corner and the wedding was almost over. What a clusterfuck of a wedding. Time to go no contact with the in-laws. OP your husband seems to be doing a good job of shutting them down already, so hopefully he can gatekeep and you won't need to speak to the crazies again. Not the a-hole. But maybe staying away from them all is a good idea, but the family sounds like a freaking nightmare. You didn't bully a child, the adult in her life caused it. OP married the nightmare. Mother-in-law is no contact because OP's husband violently attacked her multiple times, to the point where she moved out of her house when he was 16 because he kept throwing things at her head. They also brought around OP's mom, who made comments about mother-in-law being from the armpit of Asia, make fun of mother-in-law to her face, and accuse her of having an affair because she has a male friend. Father-in-law shouldn't have gone. And I have mad respect for sister-in-law for standing up for her mom against people who treat her horribly. Info: we need more details about this entire charade. Why does mother-in-law suck? Why was father-in-law wasted when he never drinks? Why are you mad at the 12-year-old child instead of all the adults? The whole thing sounds like an epic crap show. Mother-in-law and my husband hate each other. She was pretty self-absorbed and always out with her friends, and then he was a really bad kid and she won't forgive him for acting out as a teenager. On top of that, she is just kind of catty. Father-in-law didn't want to come, I guess. Mother-in-law told him she didn't care, but he got gripes from other people about how he should stand by his wife. He felt really guilty for coming. I'm not really mad at her. I just didn't think it was appropriate to be hanging out in pajamas at a wedding. And that's it for this video, guys. If you have thoughts to share, leave a comment below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you like this content. I'll catch you in the next one. Good day, everyone.